intentionally, what do you think has to happen for black folks to move the needle that not just helps black folks, but helps the whole community? And as we already said in this conversation, what black folks do helps all other communities,
Amen.
right?
Amen.
So what do we have to do for black folks to move forward in the next 5 years? Hey, this is Henry Sanders back for another episode of Real Talk, and I want to first thank our sponsors, Park Bank. Thank you for all you're doing. I am excited about today's Real Talk because we have my friend. I love her laugh like this. My sister, Brandi. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent.
See, excellent. See, excellent. See,
That's right.
How you doing? You feeling good about yourself today?
I'm all about black magic today. Can't you see it?
Yeah, look at her looking wonderful.
Yes.
Black magic.
Yeah.
So how are you doing? I mean, what's new with Brandi? So first, let me say this. Have I ever been on your show? You got a radio show.
Yes, I do, on 92.7 FM every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
The Unheard Of Show.
The Unheard Of.
Yes.
I'm unheard of because I haven't been on the show. Yeah, everyone else has been on the show but me.
Well, not everybody.
This is a black thing.
Yeah, it is absolutely a black thing. Everything I do is black.
Oh, that was good. Why haven't I been on the show? I mean, look, everything I do, I shot you. Most influential. You come to the show. You're on the Real Talk. We're doing the radio. What is it?
I was thinking about maybe, in a couple weeks.
Oh,
I would invite you on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I was waiting for you to invite me, so you the big time. I had to wait for you to invite me, and then I could feel comfortable inviting you.
See how they treat me. So especially this one, she treats me rough. Like I can text Brandi, she won't get back to me for 2 weeks.
Whatever, you were texting the wrong number.
All right. Anyways, we digress. This is our conversation. So tell us about you've been having a lot going on since Young Gifted and Black. A lot of people know you from that, Young Gifted and Black, and all the stuff you did. That was how many years ago? 5 years ago.
Yeah,
maybe?
about 5 years ago.
Man, time flies.
It does.
Wow.
It really does.
Wow. And now you're doing Urban Triage?
Yeah, I'm the founder and CEO of Urban Triage, which is a nonprofit organization for the people, by the people. We provide personal leadership and personal development training, as well as community support services, advocacy, and we recently got the opportunity to work with Madison Metropolitan School District, facilitating their Black student unions in a couple of their middle schools.
Oh, you got a contract to do that, right?
Well, actually, the contract was voted on Monday, and then I received, and it was unanimous, everyone voted for the contract, and then I received a call 2 days later saying that they didn't vote. So I'm not sure what that's about, and we'll just leave it there. I don't know. We've been waiting on this contract since last year, and the biggest piece for us is the more they push it out, the less work we can do, and the less impactful our work is, because literally, they're now saying that they have to push the vote out to March, but they voted on it, and then they said they didn't vote on it, and it was supposed to be voted on in January, and it didn't happen because it got pulled from the agenda. So who knows?
So what are they voting on though? If
they approve the contract,
and the contract is to do what? To
provide provide facilitation of BSUs, Black student unions, in 3 of Madison middle schools, which means that Urban Triage would train the facilitators, create the curriculum, staff it, provide the resources, the food. A part of our contract as well is to provide resources for students, whether it's transportation, whether it's, we notice that a kid needs new shoes or a coat, whatever is happening. We see ourselves as providing like a holistic place, a safe place for Black students. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That is really...
I know, it's amazing. If we can get the work approved.
Well, because that's the stuff I've been complaining forever. We need to help these kids with their identity,
Absolutely.
Right?
They need to know how to navigate. They need to know who they are.
Yeah.
They need to know that they are magnificent and fully competent.
And special and talented. They come from people that are just talented and...
we the stuff.
Overachievers. We just...
Yeah.
So they voted, but they didn't vote.
Apparently. And then when I contacted school board members, they were like, but we voted. So the school board folks are unsure of why the vote didn't count. But it was pulled by the school district.
Well, who called and said that it didn't count?
So I got a text from Nichelle saying that she got contacted over the weekend saying that it didn't count. And then I saw the article that posted that was done And then there was an editorial, update saying, oh, I'm sorry, we made a mistake. The contract wasn't awarded. But the journalist was there at the school board meeting, and they definitely voted for my contract. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the challenge is right now.
Well, hopefully that'll work out, because that's definitely needed. I mean, that identity work, that stuff, they have like a wraparound services,
it's pretty dope. Yeah. Our plan is pretty dope. So, but
Interesting. Well, hey, the good thing is, though, we have all people of color on the school board who clearly will hopefully understand this. Yeah. And we have a superintendent now who's coming in, a Latino gentleman who clearly will understand this, I'm hoping.
Oh, he would clearly? I don't know about the clear, but okay.
Well, I'm going by what my Latino friends have said in their op-ed piece.
What did the black people say, though?
I'm just going by right now. Not all black folks, though, because not all black folks. I mean, I just want to be clear for the record. Not all black folks came out. Majority of our black leaders had issues.
Yes,
right?
Yes. The majority of black people who attended the community meetings,
which I didn't attend any of them.
He was questioned about how he plans on and his strategy to address the racial, educational disparity or the gap in education for black students. And his response was ELS classes. So he's very much so informed and educated as around what's needed for Latino X students or Latinx students, but doesn't have any experience or analysis around the needs of black students.
Got it. So you're with the black leaders.
I'm always black, Henry.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's why I'm so happy you're on here. Okay. But I want to address this issue since we're talking. I wasn't really want to get in this a lot, but I think both sides have some valid points.
Absolutely.
For one, I think from the black leader side, and being a black man who grew up here in the school system, who survived the school district.
Me too. Amen.
I could understand from the black leaders who signed that letter saying, hey, wait a minute. You had 3 candidates, 2 black, in a city that has historically been awful to black students and black babies.
It's the worst
in the country.
Education system in the country.
In the country, yes.
Okay. That's pretty deep.
And it's historically been like that for 30-some years.
Yeah. And it's getting worse.
And at a time that we finally say, okay, now we have opportunity, we have hope.
Right.
We now have 2 people who come in who look like us. So we're hoping.
Yeah.
We're hoping. That's because you're black. Don't make you black. Oh, right.
I know that.
So I'm saying, we're
all skin folks and kin folk.
Okay. Amen. Right. Amen. So we're saying that hopefully that they come in, they can have because of their experiences. We're hoping that they can relate to our kids in a unique way that will help our kids thrive and achieve. Right. Right. And they're saying, well, we're hurt because we thought the system understood the intensity and the emergency of the sense of urgency that we needed for our kids, and now we're upset that the system did this to us again of not putting a person of color, a black person, in this position.
Well, right? I don't think it was about the person being black. Okay. Right? It really is about experience, right? Because as you just pointed out, all skin folks ain't kinfolk. This is not about black people. We must understand that white supremacy racism is not about skin color, right? We all embody anti-blackness. We all are conditioned under the same culture, the same conditions, the same society, the same context. What black people were hoping is that Madison School District and the board would do their due diligence in making sure that they interviewed people that could actually have the experience to deal with our unique challenges around racism, right? If you don't have an analysis around how white supremacy operates in your personal life and in systems, and specifically the public education system, why would we hire someone that doesn't have the skills, doesn't have the knowledge, doesn't have the experience when we're in the worst education system in the country for black kids? Now, I understand that he has other experiences with brown people, and this is the challenge we face as black people being included in this idea of POC, right? Because people of color, we just want to lump all people together, and as long as they're black, Asian, brown, or gay, because nowadays you can be white and gay, and that equals diversity and inclusion, right? And what we have to understand is that Black people come with their own set of experience separate from any other race, right? We experience slavery. We experience our culture, our language, our traditions being removed. We experience lynching, lynching right after slavery, right? Thousands of Black people were lynched. Then we experience Jim Crow. Then we experience the civil rights movement where people were brutalized, still lynched, violated. And then we had the movement like the Black Panther movement, and folks were jailed and incarcerated. And then we had the war on drug, where the CIA and the DEA put drugs in neighborhoods and then incarcerated people for selling it, right? So we have our own subset of experience separate from everyone else. And by lumping us together, we continue to maintain and uphold the status quo, leaving us with the same stuff. So that's the challenge with having him come in as superintendent. Like, you really must understand, if our goal and our intention is really to center those most vulnerable and impacted by white supremacy, which in our system, in our public education, is Black students. We can't argue that they're not. So what are we doing to do something about it is the question. And I think that's where the hurt and the anger came from Black community members, because they have been very aligned and very present with the current school board about our needs. So it was just like, oh, we hear your concerns, but once again, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what your needs are. That is how white supremacy works. And then we have the brown folks, Latino influencers, come right behind and say, you're right. You don't know what you're talking about. This is the best superintendent, the best option for Madison School District. And they're right for their children.
Okay.
Right?
So you said
I said a lot.
A lot. Mm-hmm. So one, I want to do with the school board, right? Mm-hmm. So the school board's all people of color, right? So,
okay,
Brandi,
say this with me, Henry.
This should be,
all
everyone should be.
folk and kinfolk. And everyone doesn't have the same analysis, right?
Okay. Well, that's good. That's okay. Mm-hmm.
Because remember, white supremacy isn't about color. It's about the fact that white supremacy is a mentality. It's psychological. It's how our beliefs, it's our ideas, it's how we operate. Like, in white supremacy, whiteness is defined by either or, mm-hmm. Black or white, quantity over quality, mm-hmm. Paternalism, like this idea is that I'm in charge. I get to make the decision. You don't know what you're talking about. This idea of top, bottom. Right. There's a lot of attributes and characteristics of whiteness and white supremacy. So it's not about color. I mean, we have Savion Castro, who identifies as a Black man, and he consistently votes against the needs of Black children. But that's a whole show for another day. So again, color is not the thing that gets us what we need. We need people in places of influence and power that has an analysis around white supremacy, who understand the importance of intersectionality and understand the importance of centering those most vulnerable.
So if I'm white, looking at you, and we have a lot of white
and I have some amazing white people who get it.
Yes, okay. But if I'm white looking from the outside looking in, and I'm saying, wait a minute, okay, you guys tell me that we need to have more inclusion, more representation on the school board. Mm-hmm. We give you that you have it now. You have it. And now you're telling me that there's nuances and complexity of people who are people of color who represent you, don't represent you. If I'm a white person, I am confused. Right?
Well, you should be confused.
How do I know if Savion is saying that he's Black, he identifies as Black, but you're saying he's voting against Black kids?
Yes, he is.
If I'm a white person, I'm confused, right? Ali's on there, right? What does she identify as Black?
She does. I think she actually identifies as biracial, but Ali votes are more aligned with Black students.
Okay, so I would be confused.
Well, and that's where you pick up the book and start understanding how white supremacy operates. You'll read some Bell Hooks, or read some Dr. Amos Wilson. You read some Carter Woodson. You read Pedagogy of the Oppressed. You'll actually educate yourself on how the system of white supremacy works, versus just being confused and then expecting Black people to, be exhausted through, explaining things to you. You figure it out yourself.
So does the school board unanimously vote for the new Latino superintendent?
I think they did, yeah.
Okay.
And I understand politics, right? We all do, right? And most of the school board's decisions are made prior to the vote.
Right, yeah.
Right?
It's always politics, right?
Yeah, politics.
Okay. So now, you can't be mad at our Latino brothers and sisters who are excited
No,
about someone
they
coming
oughta
in
be.
who represents them,
Absolutely.
a historical superintendent. Like, that's big.
It's huge.
Right? I mean, like,
It's huge. They have Gloria Reyes, who's
one
the
of-
president of
Amen.
the school board,
Yes.
and now they're going to have a brown superintendent, which means that their voices and concerns would be heard.
Right.
Right. That means that they'll probably get more allocations for ESL, and it means that they most likely would challenge the allocations to Black excellence, because they've been challenging that from the background. Right. This idea that brown people have to compete against Black people for resources and opportunities is kind of like the big old POC. If you're going to center their needs, then you have to center our needs. Again, white supremacy racism isn't about color, and brown people and Latinx people often, way too often, embody anti-Blackness. The idea that Black excellence shouldn't be funded and money shouldn't be allocated, even though we know statistically Black children are doing the worst in our public education system.
No one can deny that.
There's this push from brown people to say, hey, what about us? And this lack of understanding is that if it wasn't for the challenges and struggles of Black people in America and our unique experience in America, the resources and privileges y'all have wouldn't even be accessible. Because we fought for it. We've been fighting since the end of slavery.
Right, but what you're saying is, I want to make sure that people understand what you just said.
Yeah.
We're saying Black folks have been fighting for rights, civil rights, and that helped everybody. LGBTQ community, the Latino community, women helps that because we fought those battles for everyone. The doors have opened up for them, and so we're saying, well, we fought for you.
Right.
Don't forget that once you're in, don't help fight for us.
Right. Let's remember how white supremacy works. Let's unpack anti-Blackness. Let's be aware of our anti-Blackness. Even as Black people, we have to be aware of our anti-Blackness.
Okay, so I think my brown sisters, especially Latinas, they beat me down. And my sisters, I love them to death. They keep me real, right?
I don't know about that, but that's another conversation.
but they were saying to me that one of the biggest concerns they had was in the Black leadership letter. It was talking about the man's credentials. It was basically saying he was not qualified.
Okay.
And they were saying to them that was the most hurtful thing because it's already hard enough for
you
them.
Telling Black people it's hard enough
for them to get in a position of power.
That's interesting.
And then he's in a position of power now, and it's one thing to say we want the process for it, but also talk about his credibility, his credentials was a low blow.
So what's wrong with Black people saying that the credentials wasn't good enough? Really, think about what we're saying. We're saying that Black people looked at his credential and said, your credentials do not align with the needs of Black children. That's what they said. And then brown people come like, oh, that hurts my feelings so much. I think we call that, when white people do it, white fragility. So what do we call it when brown people? Should we name it brown fragility? Or do we call it the embodiment of white fragility by brown people?
But you have to understand that. You have to understand.
No.
Let's flip it.
I don't understand.
Okay, let's flip it. If say one of the Black candidates got the job, and the Latino community said, hey, wait a minute.
Which they would have.
This person is not qualified. They should not have gotten the job. Black folks have been up in arms, right? We'd be like, whoa, like these are code words that people have been using against us historically forever about when it comes to us in these positions of power.
Right, because there's a power dynamic, right? And most people don't understand the power dynamic of systemic racism or racism, period. So in this context that we exist in, white supremacy, patriarchal capitalism, that's the context. That's the matrix of everything. It's always active, it's always present, it's always current, which implies that there's a power dynamic. So brown people in this hierarchy created, not by us. Did you create it? I didn't create it. Nate didn't create it. Your producers didn't create it. It just is, right? It just is. And this racial hierarchy starts with white people at the top, white men, and then white women, right? And then we get Chinese, right? Because, they honorary white in a lot of different ways. And then we get the other levels of Asians, let's be real. And then we get the white Latinos, right? And then we get the brown Latinos. And then we get indigenous people, right? And then we get Black people. That's the base of this, right? Because remember, in a relative reality, and relative reality means that anything that exists in our world has a reference point, right? Can't have short without tall, fat without skinny. It's a reference point. We all know we exist in the context of white supremacy.
Right?
Okay. We know that. What's the opposite of that? What's the reference point in that description? Black inferiority, right? It just is what it is, because this can't exist without this. So in order for us to embody this, we also have to embody that. It's Einstein created what is it called, the relativity, or what is another word?
Relativity.
Yeah. So it's the same thing. So my whole point of saying that is when Latinos if this was the black superintendent and Latinos came for them, then that would be a flip power dynamic, because in that hierarchy, brown folks are where compared to black people.
Right, and your analysis to be higher than
right. Not my analysis. I didn't create this crap. I didn't create this. You didn't create it. They didn't create it.
Right.
It's just there, right? So it's hard to say. Well, if it was on the opposite foot, well, on the opposite foot doesn't really exist the same power dynamic.
Right.
If that makes sense.
I got
so
it.
many words.
It's good, and the only concern I have with all this is that there become a real, true black and brown divide.
There's always been a true black and brown divide.
The problem is that at some point, people of color are going to become the majority.
Well, people of color. So again, you're lumping us all together. Who are you talking about? You're talking about brown people?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And
so then they're going to take on the role of who? Because they already have enough anti-blackness in them. So if they become the majority, who are they going to most likely and probably mimic? Because they ain't doing no work to dismantle this hierarchy, right? And is the work on black people to do?
I think historically work has always been on black people.
Right, but should it be on black people to do?
Well, I'm not one of the people on the show. I'm one of the people. It is what it is. I'm one of them. I'm one of those folks. Like,
so my whole point is in this particular local issue or situation with Latino influencers and black leaders, it really would have been the most righteous, for lack of a better word, because I don't really believe in righteous, but the most effective way of handling this wouldn't have had a conversation with the leaders who wrote it.
Yes.
Right? That would have been they should have a discourse with them. There should have been like a public forum. It should have been something where it was like mutual understanding, mutual respect versus upholding this power dynamic. And it's not on black people in that situation, that particular example, to figure it out for brown folks. I mean, literally, they just shared their opinion. Then all this other domino effect, which is conducive to white supremacy and anti-blackness. Those black people don't know what they're talking about. They don't even know their own needs. They don't know what qualifies for a superintendent. I mean, that's in essence what people came back and said, right? And that is anti-black.
Okay, this is why I wanted Brandi on the show. And then there's good smile. She's like, okay, I want to switch topics a little bit.
Okay, good.
So I've been keeping up with this F-35 stuff that you've been involved with.
Yeah.
Okay, now look, can I say something? I don't know anything about the F-35. So I don't know much about the details.
Yeah.
I grew up on the north side. Whole life, that's my home. People know I'm north side. Okay, I have to ask this question. Out of all the issues in the world, this is the issue that white folks don't get up in arms about for F-35s. And all this, everything you just rattled off.
Yeah.
Education, incarceration, all those things. To me, again, I'm not educated on the issue, like the real in-depth issue, just on the surface. Yeah. It feels like a Madison type of thing for me.
Meaning, it actually is,
like
they're right.
Like a white folks saying, okay.
It is.
We're going to take on this issue for black folks on F-35s. And I have to be honest, I haven't heard any black folks talk about this.
Except for me.
Right, okay. So I'm always on the north side. I'm always just like, I heard no black folks talk about this, right? None. And even if you look at the picture with Chris Taylor takes, always white people are behind her. Okay, so I'm not taking a shot at Chris Taylor because there might be some substantive. You think I'm joking? Google and look at any picture she has in conferences.
I'm laughing because I know it's true.
Okay. All right. And so, why is that the issue that they're going to the mat for? I see signs out, all that stuff. What is that about? Like, explain that to me. Why is that issue?
Well, because it impacts white people.
But okay, but they're saying everything I've been reading is not their issue. They're doing it for black folks. Well, they're advocating for black people.
But if you pay
they're
attention
protecting
to
for black people.
anything that white people say or do, or anything that, let me just say this: the trend nowadays is to paraphrase and frame everything you say and do around racial equity. It's the trend.
Especially in Madison.
Yeah, it's the thing to do. It's the way to be inclusive. Look at the people who are running for school board, right? The white lady platform, I don't even know her name. Kate? Is it Kate? Or Chris? I didn't forgot her name. But either way, after Maya, one of Maya Pearson, she's running for the school board too. So make sure you vote for her, okay? April 7th. But the person who's running against her, after she saw Maya's platform, she literally took it and duplicated it, right? She's saying the same thing as this black woman. So my point is that one, F-35 consequences is real. Like, it's real, y'all. It's real. And it will disproportionately impact black and brown people and poor people and those most vulnerable. And white people are present in the conversation because they're homeowners. They're going to be the most financially impacted. Right? So they're going to get removed from their homes, kicked out of their homes. Their homes will not be livable, right? And when you look at the history of F-35s throughout our country as they get placed, they say, oh, it's only going to impact 2 miles out from the airport, and then it ends up being thousands of miles or, thousands of houses. Every city end up being 10 times more than the estimated amount. So who is that going to impact? White people, homeowners, right? So they don't want to lose their homes, right? So they're mad.
But doesn't this insult you, though, a little bit?
No.
That
it's expected.
Okay. So it is what it is.
It is
so
what
going
it
back
is.
To, right. Okay.
Yeah, because it's expected. And what they're saying about the impact about black and brown people is true. So for us as black people or brown people to say, well, I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon. I'm not going to even figure out or research because it's white people leading the cause.
I don't think that's it, though, Brandi.
I don't know. You was on that email thread?
Isn't it? No. Okay. But isn't it more that? I mean, again, from my perspective, again, I really don't know the depths and details of it. But
it's bad here, right?
On my perspective, all the issues going on in Madison that impact black folks directly.
But this is a safe issue for them.
But yeah, okay.
And I'm okay with white people taking on safe issues.
But I'm saying out of the top 20 things going on in the city for black folks, F-35's in the top 20?
Yes.
Come on, Brandi.
It is.
Come on.
Because PFAS cause cancer. We have extreme levels of PFAS in our water already because of the F-16s and the toxins they put in the foam to put out fires. And if you add this, it's going to triple by 100. It is proven fact that it causes cancer. This is serious, right? Now, and who and what neighborhoods are most impacted by toxic water?
The black folks are always impacted by most of the stuff.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But you said top 20.
Okay, I did say top 20.
Yeah, you said top 20.
So it's in your top 20.
Yeah, it is.
It just doesn't feel genuine to me that it's just
we know that toxics and toxic chemicals add to behavior issues, add to educational ability to learn, add to neurological issues, add to cognitive issues. So black people already suffer from all of this stuff, right?
But Brandi, I'm not saying it might be a real issue. Yeah, right. I'm saying though,
white people are going to be white people. But progressive Madison is going to be progressive Madison.
For the past, this is the biggest I've heard people come F-35's this, boycotting this. I mean,
because it impacts them. And soon as mass incarceration impacts them, they'll be protesting. Soon as never mind, because the opiate already impacted them, and then they got money and they got clinics and they got medication because crack was a whole different issue. Right. So it's really about that's how white supremacy work, right? If this thing impacts me, then exponentially I can understand. But because white people are removed from, conceptually they can say, oh, I get it, that has to be horrible, but experientially they can't connect. And white supremacy teaches people and teaches all of us that black people really aren't human. You know what I mean? So why would I care if your kids get shot up? Why should I care if your kids get beat up by police, right? Because the police are in the schools to keep us safe.
But I agree with you. What you just said. What I'm saying right now is, why not put that energy that you put towards F-35s and put it in real energy towards the stuff that are happening right now for our kids day to day? But it will.
It will, of course, and then they will start moving, and then they'll get the resources and stuff they need.
Okay.
I didn't design this.
And you're not, and you're okay with this though, because I kind of feel
it's not like I'm okay with it.
I kind of feel like they got you because you had a strong voice.
No, they got me because I really, when you study it and study the impact of these jets, our kids are going to suffer. And 10 or 15 years from now, people like you are going to, and black people who refuse to say anything or be active or take a lead part are going to be like, oh, I didn't understand that impact. Oh, I didn't see that coming. It's the same thing black people said when YGB were marching.
I didn't say that.
Right? I mean, I'm just saying.
What? Black people like me. You said black people like me.
Black leaders. When Young, Gifted, and Black was marching.
You said black people like me.
Well, you know, you kind of consider influential.
But
I
I hear you.
You're kind of elitist. Okay. So that's how
I'm elitist. Okay. All right. Right. That's not true.
All I'm saying is that when we were marching, when we were blocking traffic, when we were saying if we don't do something about the state violence that's occurring in Wisconsin and specifically in Dane County, we're going to have blood on our hands. And a few months later, Tony Robinson was murdered, and black people showed up on the side of the cops. They didn't come and organize with us. They didn't do anything with us. What they did is they were like, you know those black agitators, that Brandi, Grayson, don't. Yes, there's problems, but you know what? You can work with us. And everybody, this might be exaggerated a little bit and dramatic, but a majority of those folks got their pockets padded, right? From the work of Young, Gifted, and Black. And after all of that, I couldn't even find a job, right? I was on a break of losing my whole mind and sanity. And those same black folks would pat me on the back and say, I hope you're doing okay. I just heard you got $1 million. To do community engagement, which was one of our demands and one of our solutions and one of our things, right? And not one time did one of them say, hey, come on over here and do this because you're expert at this. You're the leader in this. We've seen the amazing work. We saw them 20,000 darn students in the Capitol, right?
But Brandi.
All I'm saying is...
Now, hang on. You're generalizing a little bit here.
Oh, am I?
I remember there was a time when me...
Okay.
And Michael Johnson.
Okay.
And we sat down with you.
Yep.
And what did we say?
And what did you offer me, Henry?
Oh, come on, Brandi.
I know.
Let's have the conversation. We said at that conversation, Brandi, we want you to organize something that will help get you money, will help you structure it, to do something to impact. We believe in what you're doing. Everything you're saying right now.
Right. I had a lot of conversations with people.
I think you.
I had a lot of conversations.
Even people disagree with you. I think people need. I've been saying this one to YGB. I've been saying this consistently, publicly. I've always been an advocate for you. But
where was the money at?
You had to say yes.
I don't think I said no.
Oh, okay.
I'm 100% sure. I'm more like, okay, well, prove it. Because you have to understand where I come from. You know how many people came to me and said they're going to help me work and support me?
That makes sense.
Right? You know how many people, and I'm not even going to name it or throw the salt out there, but there was so many people that be like, oh, I got your back. And then I'll be sending cards and emails like, so what's up? And then they just disappear.
That makes sense.
And that's the Madison way.
That makes sense. I got you. That wasn't us, but I get what you're saying. So let's talk about Madison. I want to let you go on this. Madison in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
For black folks, what do you see where we're going?
I see us investing in status quo things under the guise of black excellence. I see folks who have been in leadership a long time making a lot of money, and I see nothing changing. And I see the same old. That's what I see.
Okay. I don't want to end on that question. What should happen? What should happen?
That wasn't the answer here we wanted. Sorry.
Well, no, why? Because you know why?
Okay.
Because I think Madison's at the point, past the point of the tipping point. And if we don't do something as a city to address what's going on with the black community, there's going to be no coming back.
Yeah.
And so we have to be extremely intentional about what happens in the next not 10 years, not 20 years.
Like right now.
I'm talking about 5 years. Just look at our schools. You can tell the health of a city by its schools and its kids. So I'm saying in the next 5 years, intentionally, what do you think has to happen for black folks to move the needle that not just helps black folks, but it helps the whole community? And as we already said in this conversation, what black folks do helps all other communities, right?
Amen.
So what do we have to do for black folks to move forward in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think number one is remove our egos. 2, develop and recruit people that are from the community, raised in Madison. We lose a lot of black talent. We lose a lot of people because we don't know how to let people in. So a part of this is passing the torch, right?
So true.
Because growing up, I was amongst everybody that's currently around in leadership position, the older folks. And Well, let's just say there was no effort to reach back and bring with you, right? Because a part of our strategy has to include developing people. And that is the reason I launched Urban Triage, because after YGB and Young Gifted and Black, I discovered for myself, like, what is the point of doing the work if your work doesn't include and center developing others, right? Leadership in others, personal development, healing, dealing with the trauma, understanding the context of our existence, right? So that has to be at the forefront. 3, accountability. We give out too much money, Henry. Way too much money for not enough programming and resources for our community. And I mean the community that's most impacted, most disenfranchised and vulnerable, because we have this tendency to create programs around children who you already know gonna make it. Right? Let's take that 2.5 and 3.5 students and put them in programs, and then your numbers always work out. And then you go on social media and all these reports about how wonderful your programming is. But the kids that are most disenfranchised and being left and lost in these systems and on that path from school to prison, ain't no program, ain't no money, ain't no resources. We too scared of our own children, which is a direct reflection of us being too scared of ourselves. We got to model what we desire, right? So a lot of us as Black people and people who love Black people have to go inward. We got to deal with our stuff. And that's another thing that I learned from YGB, Young Gifted and Black, is that our organization and coalition, fell apart because we were in the work, thinking we were in the work for the right reason and doing amazing work, because you can't help but to produce amazing work when you're working with amazing people, right? And we neglected to deal with our own stuff, our own trauma as a result of existing in this context. So in our work, we end up projecting it, right? We embodied it, we projected. We embodied it, we projected. Duplicating and replicating that thing we said we set out to destroy. Right? So if Black people and people who love Black people, including my Latinx folks, aren't intentional in unpacking that anti-Blackness and that trauma and all that compounded stuff that happens within us, then we, by the very design, will project it and create the same mess. So we just got to be very intentional and stop being afraid to risk it and be accountable for all this money that's being spent, because we got millions and millions of dollars of all kind of money floating around here with no accountability, no like, I don't know. It ain't moving, Henry. It ain't moving.
Yeah, I actually agree on that last one, because I've always said that, we have so many different nonprofits, about 4,800 nonprofits in Dane County. And if you break it down, there's really like 14 of them that really focus on Black folk.
Yeah.
And if you look at the money, how much they get, it's like peanuts compared to how much they should be getting overall.
Yeah.
And I still don't understand why we haven't figured out a way to say, hey, look, here are the organizations that are doing things well for our community. Let's fund them and make sure we fund them well. The problem is though,
what?
We have the people who come up who might not be doing well, and I don't think the funders want to say, well, let's let them fall off, right? Like, they're not doing well, so what do we do with them? Like, if we let them go, we're racist, so we can't let them go.
Well, I think that's a made-up narrative. I think the problem is that white people in Madison love funding mediocrity. We like it. We do. Because the purpose is not for change. Because if the purpose of nonprofits was for change, then you would literally, your mission would be to eliminate your organization. That's what your mission should be. So if white people really want to fund, and I say white people because funders in Dane County and Madison are usually white, city council, mostly white folks. If we really are into or really desire to switch this paradigm, which I don't really believe we are, we just like to look the part, because Madison is all about looking the part, right? But if we really wanted to create a different paradigm and create a different trajectory for Black people, then we would get radical. Right? Would it be radical? The school board would have got radical when it came to security versus cops. Radical meaning putting community members there. Radical meaning providing training, leadership, and personal development, training for community folks, right? We can't empower people while helping them. We have to give people the tools and skills to navigate and to sustain their own life. And if they can do that, and they can navigate in this system of whiteness, then they can project something differently, model something differently, and create something different and cause infinite possibilities. But we don't want to talk about that, right? We just want to give $1 million here, show up at these events. Oh, I gave them $250,000. Where that money going? Right? Because every time I call them for assistance, they ain't got no money. You know what I'm saying? So how are we being accountable? And we have to stop being scared from holding Black people accountable. Right? People scared to hold Black people accountable. It's like, well, I don't want to be anti-Black. But you already anti-Black because you're allowing them to fail our children.
All right. Well, that was a very interesting conversation, very Brandi-esque.
Black Power.
So before, tell these people right now, I'm gonna come on your show. You're gonna invite me on your show.
Yes, I'm gonna invite you on my show in a couple weeks. Promise you.
You promise.
And I don't lie.
Okay. Thank you for coming. It was wonderful having you.
Thank you.
And come more often, okay?
Yeah, invite me.
We really appreciate you coming on. Yeah. For real, it was real.
Your brain's gonna be off the chain.
It was real talk. It was real talk. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.